The first time I slept on a stranger's couch, I was 9, and my mother told me it was my fault for being too much to handle. Her words stung worse than the cold, lumpy cushions digging into my back as I curled up under a borrowed blanket, wondering if I'd ever feel home again. By the time I was 12, I'd lost count of the couches, the floors, the fleeting faces of people who took pity on me, each one, a reminder that I was a burden nobody wanted. Not even her. My name is Ethan, and this is the story of how I clawed my way out of the shadows cast by my mother, Vanessa, a woman whose love for herself left no room for anyone else. Growing up, I didn't understand the word narcissist. All I knew was that Mom's world revolved around her mirror, her parties, her endless quest for admiration. She was beautiful, magnetic, the kind of woman who could make a room hush just by walking in. But behind the charm was a void, and I was the collateral damage. Vanessa wasn't always cruel, not in the way you'd expect. She didn't hit me or scream often. Her neglect was quieter, sharper, like a paper cut you don't notice until it burns. When I was 6, she'd leave me alone in our tiny apartment for days, chasing auditions or men who promised her stardom. I'd sit by the window, counting cars, pretending each one was her coming back for me. She'd return eventually, smelling of perfume and wine, tossing me a half-hearted, "You're fine," right before vanishing into her room. By 8, I was cooking my own meals, burnt toast, canned beans because hunger doesn't wait for a mother's attention. The couch surfing started when she lost our apartment. She'd spent the rent money on a designer dress for some gala, convinced it would land her a role in a movie that never materialized. We were evicted, and instead of fighting for us, she sent me to stay with friends' acquaintances, really, people she barely knew. I'd show up with a backpack, my only possessions a toothbrush and a dog-eared copy of The Hobbit, my escape from reality. Some were kind, like Mrs. Carter, who'd slip me extra cookies and ask about school. Others, like Mike, a gruff bartender, barely noticed me, letting me sleep on his couch out of vague obligation to Vanessa. I learned to be invisible, to take up as little space as possible, because drawing attention risked being sent somewhere worse. School was my lifeline. I was good at math, loved the way numbers made sense when nothing else did. My teacher, Ms. Larson, noticed my tattered clothes and the way I'd hoard lunch scraps for later. She never pried, but she'd leave books on my desk, slip me snacks, or accidentally forget her sweater so I could wear it. She saw me, and that small act of being seen kept me going. But even she couldn't stop the spiral. By 13, I'd been to 7 schools, dragged across cities as Vanessa chased her dreams. Each move erased my progress, my friends, my fragile sense of stability. The worst night came when I was 14. Vanessa had a new boyfriend, Greg, a slick real estate guy who treated her like a trophy and me like garbage. They decided to start fresh in Miami, but there was no room for me. She dropped me at a youth shelter with a breezy, "You'll be fine. Ethan, you're tough." I stood in the rain, watching her car disappear, her laughter echoing in my head. The shelter was cold, crowded, and smelled of bleach, but it was better than another stranger's couch. I stayed there for 6 months, lying about my age to avoid social services, terrified they'd send me back to her. At 16, I got a job bussing tables and rented a room in a boarding house. It was a grim place, but it was mine. I worked nights, studied during the day, and saved every penny. Vanessa called sometimes, her voice syrupy with fake concern, asking for money or favors. I learned to say no, though it felt like betraying her. She'd cry, call me ungrateful, then hang up. Each call carved a new wound, but I was done being her shadow. High school graduation was my turning point. I earned a scholarship to a small college, studying engineering, numbers, logic, structure. They were my refuge. College was hard, not just the coursework but the loneliness. I'd see other kids with parents cheering at games or sending care packages, and the ache would hit, but I kept going, fueled by a promise to myself I'd build a life where no one could abandon me again. 2 decades later, I'm 32, a structural engineer with a quiet life in Seattle. I've got a small house, a dog named Bilbo, and a circle of friends who feel like family. I've worked hard to heal, to believe I'm worth more than Vanessa's neglect taught me. Therapy helped, though it took years to untangle the guilt and anger. I learned that her narcissism wasn't my fault, that her inability to love me was about her, not me. Then last month, she showed up, out of nowhere. Vanessa knocked on my door, looking older but still polished, her smile as dazzling as ever. She was in town for a project and needed a place to stay. The audacity floored me. She didn't ask about my life, my pain, the years I'd survived without her. She just assumed I'd open my home, my heart, like nothing had happened. I let her in, not out of love but curiosity. Could she change had she for a week? I watched her. She complimented my house, my job, but it was all surface, a performance to win me over. She talked about her latest ventures, her struggles, never once asking about mine. One night, over dinner, she casually mentioned needing money to get back on her feet. The same old script. I didn't yell or cry. I just looked at her, this woman who'd shaped my life by her absence, and said, "No." Her face crumpled, then hardened. She called me selfish, ungrateful, the same words from my childhood. But this time, they didn't cut. I'd built walls stronger than her words. I told her to leave, and when she did, slamming the door, I felt free. That night, I sat on my couch, in my home, and thought about the boy I'd been, the one who'd survived her neglect. I realized I didn't need her apology or her love. I'd found those things in myself, in the people I'd chosen, in the life I'd built. Vanessa's narcissism had taken so much, but it couldn't take my strength. Looking back, I see the value of my struggle. It taught me resilience, empathy, the kind of love that doesn't demand a spotlight. I volunteer now, mentoring kids in shelters, kids like me who need someone to see them. I tell them they're enough, that their worth isn't tied to someone else's failures. It's my way of rewriting the story, of turning pain into purpose. But the question lingers, was I right to shut her out? Could I have given her one more chance? I don't know. Maybe there's no right or wrong, just choices and their consequences. I'd love to hear what you think. Should I have let her stay? Or was walking away the only way to heal? Share your thoughts. Because stories like mine don't have neat endings, just lessons we carry forward. Entonces,